what I've got to come up with is something to bolt to the engine block here and here, because the bell housing is shaped like this and it's got bolts, holes that I can't use. So I was thinking about just getting a metal bar the same thickness, aluminum, it's about 1.5 inches, and I could put that bar across here and then have a couple of tabs coming down and then thread the holes that already exist in the bell housing. So I could just bolt this bar to it and then it would bolt to the engine. So like a piece of this would, if this was a solid bar, not just an angle iron, but it would be the same width and it could mount right on top like this, and then you would have tabs coming down the back, and then these holes could be threaded. And then you would bolt that to here, and then the bolts would go in the engine block. The idea is, if I fabricate this out of aluminum, weld on some tabs, they're kind of at a little angle because the tabs on the actual bell housing are at a little bit of an angle. I got an awful lot of shadow there. Trying to make it no shadow. Anyway, so this bar would go across the top there, and then the holes in the engine in this area and this area would line up with the drilled holes in the metal bar. And then these two tabs would simply thread into the ears on the bell housing with some ordinary Allen bolts. Therefore, this would have the same depth as this surface, and it would bolt flush. Does that kind of sort of make sense? But then it dawned on me, I was being a complete idiot. You see, these early Ford transmissions have one really nice feature a lot of transmissions don't have. And that is, if I pop that torque converter out, I can actually unbolt that bell housing and replace it with the correct bell housing for a V8 engine. Now, to fabricate this adapter, if you will, I'd have had to buy a 8-inch bar of 1.5-inch aluminum stock, and then I'd have to get some more aluminum, just flat sheet metal to, attach the tabs to, and then I'd have to, drill the holes, and I'd have to take it down to one of the local fabrication shops or welding shops to have those aluminum parts welded together because, well, you've seen my welds, right? So I'd have to pay somebody to do that. I would also have to purchase a couple of 1/2-inch bolts with Allen heads that are short enough that they would go into the bell housing but not hit the engine block. And then I'd also have to purchase a tap with which to tap the holes in the existing bell housing to put the bolts in to bolt the adapter thingy onto it, right? So I was probably looking at close to $100 in odds and ends parts and external labor to make this adapter. But then I spotted this bell housing on eBay for $100. That's about what I would have paid for those odds and ends aluminum parts. And to make it even sweeter, he sent me a reduced offer, $90. Couldn't go wrong. So, got it on order. While I was at it, I did go ahead and change the transmission filter. We're going to give it some fresh fluid because, when the new motor goes in, well, we're going to be pumping quite a bit more torque through this old tranny. We want to make sure she's good and lubed with some fresh fluid and filter. Now, there is one part I did have to fabricate, nonetheless. See, this spacer plate, I could not find one for a reasonable price online. So I'm going to use the old spacer plate, but as you can see, there's going to be an area here where there's not going to be full contact with the new bell housing. So I did have to fabricate this little plate of aluminum. It's the same thickness as the spacer plate. I got the holes to line up, so that will take the place of the correct spacer plate. So, just for a change of pace, I'm going to do something I don't ever do. I'm going to get the right part and replace the wrong part. So our flex plate has arrived, so that's good. So now the only thing I'm waiting on is the correct bell housing, so that when it arrives, we can put it back in the tranny, we can put this on, and we can put the engine in.